Hello everyone, my name is Figo and welcome to a Pokemon Platinum Hardcore Nuzlocke. Now if you're not familiar with what a Hardcore Nuzlocke is, it's like a regular Nuzlocke, except it tries to make you hate it even more. You capture the first Pokemon you find on every single route. If a Pokemon faints, it's considered dead. You're not allowed to use items in battle, and you have a level cap that prevents you from leveling up your Pokemon past the level of the gym leader's ace that you're facing. So today I'm going to see if I can beat one of my favorite Pokemon games of all time under these hardcore stipulations. Thank you for viewing this video, and let's see how this challenge goes. We of course start out in Mom's house, where our rival Barry kicks the door in and drags us outside to go catch wild Pokemon with our bare hands. Barring the fact that Starly would peck our eyes out, we decide to go for it anyway. Well, I say we decide, he decides, because he's the main character for about the next 5 minutes. Just before we're about to execute this genius plan, Professor Rolas finds us and assumes that we are irresponsible kids unworthy of making our own thoughts or feelings known to the world due to the fact that we will get ourselves and others harmed and or killed. Knowing this, he gives us weapons of mass destruction, aka starter Pokemon, capable of harnessing the elements onto their side and using them to annihilate our foes. With that in mind, I decide to pick the little penguin. Why? Because I pulled up a random number generator. Normally I would pick the monkey and I would say you do too, but today is an easy mode day, now is it? No, for all of these runs I'll be rolling a random number between 1 and 3, that'll determine my starter, despite what I might want. Please give me my Chimchar back. Barring this, we quickly beat our rival in a fight and move on to the next town, where we get through a little more tutorial bullshit, get the TM for return, and move on to catching our first few Pokemon. And of course, first up is a level 2 Starly, who could have guessed. Pen the Piplup quickly weakens it down to low health, where I catch it and name it Dino. We then move on to the next route, where I encounter several more Starlies before picking up an actual Pokemon named Bidoof. And as much as I love Bidoof, and I'm sure you do too, he sees no fights for this entire run. From henceforward, we will not be caring about whatever name I actually named him during this run, for his new name will be TM Man and nothing else. Soon after, we catch a Shinx, another big surprise there, that I named Egypt, because that's what I always named him as a kid, because I didn't know the difference between a Shinx and a Sphinx. But my stupidity completely aside, we then breeze through a couple of trainers on the next route, and finally make it to our first city, Jubilife City. It's here in Jubilife where we first meet Looker, and while at first he may seem important, he actually does nothing for the entire rest of this game. Actually, forget this game, he doesn't do anything for the rest of the franchise while he appears in it. For some reason he fades out of existence somewhere around, I think, Sword and Shield, but whatever, I didn't care in the first place. We then move along to get ourselves an Old Rod, and then move to the pier next door where we catch a Magikarp named Big John. Going upwards, we then catch a Budew that I name Bub, and Platinum, being ever so generous with its encounters, we continue on to the cave where we catch a Zubat that I name Long Larry, or Larry, because I didn't think I could actually fit Long Larry in there, and I didn't bother trying. We tell Barry to beat it out of the trainer school, and then we physically beat him off of the next route. We find an Abra that I name Mystic, kick our way through a few more trainers, then I find a Geodude that I name Pet Rock. Then we finally arrive in Orberg Town, where we can challenge the first gym leader. But before we get to that, we actually have 2 more encounters that we're going to get. Yes, 2 more. Thank you, Pokemon Platinum. It's just north of this wonderful town, where we capture ourselves a Machop that I name Heavy. We then go down south into the mines, where thanks to Duke's Claws, all we can catch is an Onix, which I accidentally kill with Low Sweep. Accidentally. Then we move along to the gym, thanks to all of our encounters being pretty much sealed from here on out, where I go ahead and level everybody up to the level cap, evolving our Dino into a Staravia, and Bub into a Roselia. Now, with all of our affairs in order, I decide to challenge Gym Leader Rourke. Now, as you can imagine, this, with all of our Pokemon, should absolutely not be a problem. After all, our team features a prominent Water type, Grass type, and Fighting type. In fact, I decided to leave with that very Fighting type, as Heavy comes out to sweep the gym. First, it starts out with a Karate Chop, which deals some very good damage to Geodude, taking it down to just a little over half as it sets up Stealth Rocks. Joke's on this idiot, I don't plan on switching out. Heavy hits it with another Karate Chop, which completely kills it, bringing out Rourke's second Pokemon, the Cranidos. Now, if you don't know, this thing has a pretty insane attack stat, so should it hit me, it'll actually do some insane damage. And by insane, I mean a little under 20, which is actually kind of pathetic. Heavy showing off his supreme bulk here, and leveling up to 15 as he kills it in a single mighty blow. Next up, Onyx comes out, and frankly, I'm not very afraid of Onyx. Its pathetic attack stat is nothing in the face of, well, Cranidos, who I was completely prepared for. In fact, Rock Throw does a grand total of 3 damage, which is just pathetic. Low sweep crits and kills, and Heavy takes home an immediate first gem sweep, getting us through and earning us a badge, as well as a HM and TM for further use. We then boogie back west, where we make our way up through the cave, rock smash through a few boulders, throttle a couple more kids innocently minding their own business on a trail. Should have challenged me to a fight, idiot. Then we make our way to Floroma Town and the Valley Windworks, where we can finally get ourselves a brand new encounter. Now, here at Valley Windworks, you can find yourself some incredible encounters. Elekid, Voltorb, Shellos, Floatzel. All of these are viable options that can really help your early game runs. Electric types are great, and having one would be an incredible boon for the run. So I'm extremely excited to see what we... Pachirisu. Oh, you shouldn't have. Really. We then, with our completely unchanged team, blast through a few more rocket grunts, make our way over to the Valley Windworks once again, and find ourselves evolving a few more Pokemon. Egypt evolves itself into a Luxio, and Pen evolves into a Prinplup, which I've always found to be profoundly ugly. It's inside the actual Windworks themselves that a strange red-haired crony preaches to me about philosophy before challenging me to a Pokemon fight. This is the infamous Commander Mars. Now, I accidentally lead Heavy into a Zubat, but frankly I'm not really worried about this fight. After all, everybody talks about it being that hard, but I don't really see it. After all, I've blasted through it 100 times with an overleveled starter, which totally qualifies me for all this. I quickly send out Egypt, who takes a bite very easily and kills it with a stab super effective Spark. Now, this does leave him wide open for the incoming Purugly. However, Egypt has been training hard for this very moment. After all, he evolved shortly before this fight. So, once the Purugly actually comes out and hits the field, he puts that training to work. And by that, I mean he immediately bitches out to somebody a bit more ready for this. Heavy hits the field and gets ready to take on the Purugly, who hits him with the Fake Out, which shouldn't actually deal that much damage. Oh. Well, one crit isn't too bad. After all, he can take one more hit and land back a Karate Chomp to get some decent damage in... Oh. Shit. Well, whatever, I've got a Staravia for a reason. Dino comes in and intimidates Purugly, allowing him to get off a few, honestly, pathetic wing attacks, but it's not like Purugly's scratches are doing much better. Another one comes in, bringing Purugly down into the yellow, who keeps outspeeding me, which is really fast for that thing, if you can't see what's on screen. However, its Oranberry heals it back into the green, forcing us to kill it with 2 more wing attacks, risking crits from scratches the entire time, but don't worry, I'm never punished because I'm never unlucky. Ignore what happened to Heavy, who'll be going to the death box very soon. Purugly goes down finally, and the fight is over. Frankly, I think I played that extremely well. Did I? No, but I think I did. Which is nice, because it makes me feel much more confident about the run going forward. Mourning the death of Heavy, our poor, gone too soon, unfortunate soul, we move north onto the next route. We run over a few more innocent kids with our car named Dino before catching our next friend, that being a pink Shellos that I named Knack for reasons I don't quite understand. We then careen our way into Eterna Forest, where some idiot named Cheryl helps me catch a random bunny I find lying around on the ground. I then run over what feels like a million different trainers before finally escaping this hellhole and entering the next town. It's here in Eterna City and its surroundings that I do a bit of berry picking, electrocute an entire lake full of fish, and then go teach Gardenia why grass is ass. And the perfect Pokemon for that particular job just so happens to be Dino, the truck I've been running people over with up to this point. Now, frankly, Gardenia's never been a hard gym leader ever, but I always thought that was because every time I played this game, I started with the fire type. But no, really, it turns out grass is ass, and Dino is a well-trained lawnmower. Turtwig is the lead for Gardenia, and it almost goes down to a single wing attack, setting up Reflect. Now, here for a little bit, I do a couple of confusing strats where I try to stall out the Reflect, which, doesn't really do anything for us. I end up at a point just getting frustrated with the Turtwig and killing it with Golbat. Larry over here is thirsty for blood, and I just had to satiate him, allowing Turtwig to get up Sunlight and a few other shenanigans before anything else continues. However, the next Pokemon out, Cherim, is basically completely walled in every conceivable way by Larry. Now, Cherim actually survives one singular wing attack, and using its last breaths, it sets up a safeguard. Oh no, how will I ever break through such high defenses? Larry takes it down with another wing attack, and finally, their ace comes out, the big bad Roserade. Now, this thing can actually be kind of a threat under the right circumstances. However, these are not the right circumstances. This is a flying poison type, and this is Larry's domain. He immediately gets paralyzed, though, and can't move. But that's fine, he's got a second chance as he gets hit with the Grass Knot for more damage than I thought with 4 times resist would take, hitting Roserade for a wing attack that takes it down to the yellow. Its Citrus Berry heals it up into acceptable ranges, but Larry ain't no bitch. He goes in for another hit, successfully taking the kill on Roserade and finishing this gym up pretty handily. Immediately after earning a gym badge, Larry evolves into the incredibly fast Crobat, who is one of my favorite Pokemon of all time. Then we head over to the next route where we catch a Medicham, who will be taking Heavy Spot as designated fighting type. Then we head up north where Looker once again proves to be completely useless, as I do all of the work clearing out the entirety of the Team Galactic building. After reaching the very top, I challenge Commander Jupiter to a fight. Now, going into this, I thought Jupiter would be an easy KO, coming off the high of beating Mars. I, however, was very wrong. Skuntank turned out to be a much bigger threat than I anticipated, and after switching around and damaging a little bit, I realized that I would need a sacrifice to get something done. And thinking about that for about 20 seconds, I realized Egypt is a rivalry Luxio and not an intimidate Luxio, which makes this decision incredibly easy for me. Sorry, Egypt, you'll be, forgotten soon. Yikes. At the very least, Long Larry can come in and finish off the Skuntank, and we can honor Egypt by shoving him in the death box. We then bring out our Meditite and evolve him up as much as we can, and by evolve I mean level up because this thing doesn't evolve for forever. Then, going a little bit further south, we get an egg from Cynthia, which hatches into the Faithful Togepi, which I admit is going to see very little use this game. Thanks to it being a friendship evolution, we can get it evolved into a Togetic almost immediately. Then, after that, we travel down Cycling Road at jet speeds and make it all the way over to Mount Cornet, where a blue-haired freak yells at a 10-year-old about philosophy for God knows how long. Then, moving a little further, we actually get our encounter, that being a Nosepass, a Pokemon I've never used before, and we can actually immediately evolve it into its final evolution, Probopass. And this is pretty cool because I've never used Probopass either, and in fact, it walls the ever-loving shit out of Fantina's team, as you'll see very soon. Soon after, I catch a Ralts, which is a really nice find. I name it Blast, and then almost immediately evolve it into a Kirlia thanks to the level cap rules. Soon after, I then bear my way through a cutscene involving the beauty contests, and then finally make it to Fantina's gym, where after skipping past a few trainers, I eventually make it all the way to the boss herself. Now this fight is notoriously pretty difficult. However, I'm very confident going into it that my team of aces is going to destroy her. The fight with Fantina kicks off with a bang. Larry hits a pretty nasty bite against the Duskull, dealing way more damage than I thought it would. Duskull lets out a Future Sight, which threatens to hit Larry in a few turns, but for now I should just go for the bite. Oh, Confuse Ray. Yeah, I don't remember what I was thinking here, but whatever, I guess I thought I would get crafty. Soon after, I'm forced to switch to the wall, who can comfortably take anything and everything Duskull could possibly throw at it. A few rock throws later, and it's sent straight back to the Shadow Realm. Now, Fantina only has a few Pokemon, and the next one it switches into is Miss Magius, which is pretty threatening. But thankfully, the wall is, as stated, the wall, and can easily tank most of Miss Magius's moves and throw a Thunder Wave out to paralyze it. It takes a whole lot of rock throws, but eventually the damn thing goes down after me having to switch out to Larry ensures a kill. Now, with only Haunter left, I can comfortably switch back to the wall and start to chip it down with a combination of Thunder Wave, several rock throws, a switch to Dino, and a bit of Hypnosis dodging. But finally, Fantina is done, and we have ourselves another gym badge. Soon after Fantina, I try to be along my way, however Barry stops me for a forced rival fight. I honestly kind of wasn't expecting it, but my Pokemon are well in the level cap for this, so I decide that I'm going to throttle him then and there on the spot. Staravia is his lead, which is actually a problem because whoever at Game Freak decided that they should have a Endeavor double team Quick Attach Strat Staravia as the rival is an evil mastermind, but hey, I deal with it this first time around using a combination of Wing Attack and Magical Leaf, which can't miss. Soon after, the rest of his team drops like dominoes, and frankly, Barry hasn't really been much of a threat for this entire run, and surely never will be. Yeah. We then begin our mighty blitz down to the next town, which includes going through a route that I originally remembered being pretty difficult, but honestly, I had a good time going through it. We'd catch ourselves a Ponyta, which will eventually evolve into a Rapidash. Not a terrible encounter, but not really all that good, but it's immediately followed up by a Scyther, something I've never actually caught before in-game. I'm pretty excited to use this thing, so I name it the Goat, or just Goat for short. It doesn't take long before we're in Veilstone, and Veilstone is a pretty fun town. The game corner is here, where you can get some pretty useful TMs, and the gym is a fighting-type gym. And you may have noticed by now my team has enough flying coverage to start an airline. And an entire Gardevoir coming up pretty soon. I'm frankly set in everything related to fighting types. The only problem here is that I spend half an hour doing the puzzle. Yes, I feel stupid about it. You can comment all you want. Just before I do the fight, though, I have to do a little bit of preparation. I evolve Blast into the mighty Gardevoir, and Archelos evolves into a Gastrodon. Both of these Pokemon are extremely useful encounters and will be helping us throughout the rest of our run. Hopefully, that is. Soon after, we swap out the wall for the Goat, which, I mean, yeah, the wall isn't exactly walling anything in a fighting gym with that quad weakness of its, but don't worry, I'm sure we'll see more of it later on in the future. I pull up on Maylene with a vengeance and get ready to take her down, just as I have many other gym leaders. I lead Dino into a Meditite, which dies to a single Aerial Ace. Machoke comes out, which goes down to 2 after missing one of its pivotal attacks. Then, finally, the strong and powerful Lucario comes out, and, well, I can't help but switch out in the face of something that could potentially just obliterate Dino. I send out Knack, who, well, takes a few Drain Punches in exchange for throwing out a Mud Bomb, but it's forced to switch out into Larry, who is forced to absorb a Metal Claw, but Larry takes it all pretty easily, landing a couple wing attacks and defeating Maylene, once again without a death. Things are going pretty smoothly, and I'm excited to see where this keeps going, because frankly, after all these gym badges are down, I'm feeling super confident about the future of this run. Soon after, I get myself a coin case and visit the game corner in order to get some TMs. Now, I'm not one to abuse the lot of money you can get from selling rare candies, but I'm also, tired of grinding things. I like to save a little time, so what I do is I limit myself to only 3 items from the game corner. That's right, I can get 3 things, and that's it. So I decide on the TMs for Psychic, Return, because I may or may not have wasted my original one on Togepi. Yeah, that's not great. and Thunderbolt. Now, Psychic and Thunderbolt are both going to Gardevoir. However, the return TM is going to Dino. You see, Dino is already a truck running over everything in its path, but now, with a Stab Return, it is practically a bullet train, and I'm ready to see what it can do. I then continue blasting my way down the beaten path, where I run over a few trainers, have an interesting battle against a Tropius, end up failing to catch a Rhyhorn, but succeeding in catching a Girafarig, which I name Double. Then I continue on until I reach the Valor Lakefront, which I am, well, a little confused about for a little too long, because I honestly don't remember this section of the game. Then I carry on to the next town. However, in any and all Nuzlocke's, disaster is going to strike at some point. And that some point is right now. You see, I was going to scout out Wake's gym and maybe clear out a few of the trainers a little early before I got into it, when I suddenly realized that I may or may not have missed a certain rival fight. Yeah, apparently, Barry challenges you to a fight right outside of Wake's gym. I didn't know about this, and so we see the return of the Quick Attack Endeavor and double teaming Staravia, which leads into my team with me completely unprepared for it. So I, in a blind panic, switch around to several of my team members, sacrificing a ton of their health. I wasn't in the best game state going into this, and certainly didn't come out of it any better, because boy did I flounder hard, eventually to the point where I'm forced to sacrifice Knack in order to get a free switch in to Dino, and Dino takes out the Staravia. However, soon realizing afterwards that I don't really have a switch into Ponyta, I sack Dino, despite all that we've been through, because I really want to use a Crobat this run, and I wanted to sack one of the two flying types instead of anything else on my team. So, afterwards, Goat comes in and finishes off the rest of Barry's team. However, we really feel those two losses, especially Storm Drain Gastrodon just before the Water Gym. It is rough, but the run will still survive. We've had good encounters up to this point, and surely I won't throw any more Pokemon away needlessly, right? Immediately after that, I decide I need some more bulk and anti-water measures on my team. So I take Bub out of the box, grass type is always useful in these sort of situations, and I take a Big John and finally evolve him into the big, beautiful Gyarados he was supposed to be. Originally, I wasn't really going to use him for this run since I was going to have Empoleon, but honestly, Gyarados is too good to pass up on, and I did just lose one of my Intimidate Mons. Well, I say one of, my only. I consider Gardevoir an Intimidate Mon thanks to Trace always somehow getting Intimidate, but that's another story. With my team ready, I decide to go in and clear out some trainers from Crasher Wake. And, I get a little too bold with a confused Bub and may or may not lose him to a random gym trainer. I lost my grass type in the water gym. Not even to the leader. Okay, it's fine. We've still got plenty of options for Crasher Wake, like, I'll get back to you on that. Well, actually, that's not entirely a lost cause. I do have one really good Crasher Wake counter. That being Blast, the Gardevoir. Funnily enough, it pretty much completely KOs all of Wake's team. Gyarados goes down to a single Thunderbolt. We have a scary moment involving Floatzel and Crunch, but it goes down to another Thunderbolt, and Quagsire comes out only to die to a 4x super effective Magical Leaf. Wow, Blast is really carrying this run in a lot more ways than one. Kinda glad I brought it in favor of Alakazam. Honestly, I'm starting to prefer it more than that in general. Looker, the grown-ass man member of the International Police, shares all of his plans with the 12-year-old boy shortly before we run our way into Cynthia. She tells us that we need to go deliver some, bullcrap to her grandma up in one of the towns across the single worst route in Pokemon history. You wanna know how bad this place is? Imagine every move is Focus Blast. Now do that for an hour. it's horrid. Can't even play on speed up in this section without being incredibly paranoid of losing something or anything to bullshit RNG. I mean, seriously, I've missed practically 100 attacks on this route, had me absolutely tweaking the entire way through. Though, before the madness consumes me entirely, I do catch a Swablu, which is nice. I'm not using it for now, but Altaria is a Pokemon I haven't really gotten a chance to use before, so I'm pretty excited to add it on my team sometime in the future if I need it. Several more low-accuracy fights nearly cost me several Pokemon, but I managed to shimmy my way through just barely, and finally make it to Cynthia's grandma. There, we find out that Cyrus is hanging out in caves and battling 12-year-olds for rights or something. Not really sure, but after kicking them out, we get told that we need to go travel halfway across the world again, and of course, I oblige. Very soon afterwards, we surf our way over to Canalave City, home of the Steel-type gym. Thankfully, just in time for this one, we can evolve Macho into a mighty Medicham. Now, with its strong fighting stab and pure power, it should be ready to decimate everything in that gym, if Pen can't already do that. Frankly, my team is more than ready for anything and everything he could throw at me. However, before we can get to fighting the Steel Gym, I first have to face Barry on the bridge. Barry leads into Staraptor, which goes up against Blast. Blast traces its Intimidate and manages to take it out with a Thunderbolt. However, Heracross comes out next. I expect Blast to outspeed it, but surprisingly it does. Thankfully, Blast is bulky as all hell and manages to nail Heracross with a Psychic. The absolute monster that it is, taking it out in a single fell blow and leveling up to 41. Man, have I mentioned how freaking crazy Gardevoir is? Now, I need to switch out of it and into something a little more capable of dealing with the incredibly fast Fossil. And I get hit with Pursuit, and Blast goes down. Yeah. That hurts, but Pen comes out and can hit Floatzel with a Grass Knot. Floatzel, actually incapable of dealing much damage to Pen, just hits it with some pathetic Aqua Jets before going down like the rest of them. Torterra comes out, and fearing Earthquake, I switch into Big John. However, it just goes for Razor Leaf. Big John retaliates with an Ice Fang, which, shockingly enough, does not kill Torterra, leaving it on a sliver of HP, so I'm forced to Dragon Rage and take it down. Ponyta comes out last, and I switch into Pen on a takedown. Pen responds with a Surf that destroys Rapidash in a single clean hit. The loss of Gardevoir is incredibly severe to my team, but hey, at least we have an Alakazam in the wing ready to replace it and spam Psychic. Spoiler alert, it will not learn any good attacks other than Psychic for the entire rest of the playthrough. But hey, what else do you really need on an Alakazam, let's be honest with ourselves. Well, with all my preparation done, I'm finally ready to fight Byron. First, I have to navigate through this maze of a gym, which isn't really that much of a maze, but this children's game is making me question my intelligence. I finally make it to the gym leader himself and challenge him. So, this fight goes about how you would expect. His first Pokemon is completely annihilated by Macho. His second, Steelix, is pivoted into by Pen and destroyed in a single Surf. And then finally, Bastiodon comes out, and after a bit of a scary Metal Burst, Big John takes care of all the heavy lifting. Frankly, this thing's attacking stats are so pathetic that the only way it could have even really done anything to me is with Metal Burst. Even if that Stone Edge that missed Big John crit, I don't imagine it would have killed him. But either way, we safely secure another badge and carry on with the run. Now, I understand for some upcoming sections in the game, I might need a little more diversity on my team, or at least some different encounters that can help me deal with some issues. So I decide to level up Pet Rock until he's a Golem, and I decide to bust out Pearl, the Ponyta, and turn it into a Rapidash. Then I prepare to leave for Iron Island after doing a few errands around Sinnoh. Then, after breezing through all of Iron Island, I managed to get my hands on a Riolu egg, as well as a Shiny Stone, which I used to evolve Togetic into Togekiss, right before I realized that Stone Evolution stopped learning moves and that this thing is useless. so I box it for the rest of the run and forget about it. But hey, that Riolu will evolve into a Lucario soon. Whenever I get over to Candace, I'll probably end up using that. I even end up finding a metal coat that can turn an Onix into a Steelix. Too bad there was no possible chance I could have had an Onix at any point in this playthrough. But, you know, what can you do? I then meet up with the Professor, Dawn, and Barry at a library, where we talk about boring stuff until Team Galactic sets off a fucking bomb somewhere in the region, so now I need to bum rush my way over to the lakes and beat up said bums for hours on end until Team Galactic decides to bitch out and leave this place. However, apparently they set off, or intend to set off, more bombs, which means now I need to go run around the Sinnoh region even more. Thankfully, a while ago I taught Fly to Larry, so this isn't too bad of an issue, but the backtracking is intense. I then beat down some more Galactic grunts before 1v1ing Mars again, of all people. However, Perugly was never meant to take down the wall, and she then gaslights herself into thinking she won before running away. I then fly up north and decide I'm going to go through the snow route, where I immediately lose Lopunny to the first trainer I fight. Well, I mean, this thing was going to fall off pretty soon anyway. If I wanted a fake fighting type, I'd shop around a little more. Honestly, the hail game of this section has me pretty stressing, because frankly, my team is not very good with this whole damage over time stuff with its somewhat lackluster bulk in some areas. I know I have the wall, but I mean, not every Pokemon is as bulky as him, and frankly, my electric weakness becomes even clearer as an Electabuzz almost destroys my team. However, I make it through and manage to catch a Sneasel, which will pretty much, I don't think, ever come up. Despite how good of a Pokemon it is, its only ice move it'll be learning is, I think, Ice Shard, but because of reasons similar to that, I decide to drop it in favor of other teammates. I continue trudging my way up north, where after making it through a snowstorm, Barry makes fun of me for not being able to climb rocks, and I make it to the city that Candace lives in. Snow Point, I think? I honestly can't remember, and I can't be bothered to check. But it's shaped like a snowflake, and that's pretty cool. There, I'm actually pretty afraid of Candace for some reason, and I assemble the Anti-Candace squad, preparing my best Pokemon against her vicious ice types. There, I hatch the Lucario egg and name it Furry for no particular reason, evolve Abomasnow, and get the rest of my team in order for what is gonna be a pretty tough gym. Or at least I think is gonna be a pretty tough gym. Because honestly, the hardest part of this gym is the puzzle meant for 6-year-olds. Because my brain seemingly devolved the older I get. But hey, whatever, eventually I get through it and actually manage to face down Candace. Honestly, I'm not really sure what I expected with the Candace fight. It's not as hard as I thought it would be. Lucario pretty much destroys everything on our team with close combat other than Frostlass, which, after setting up some double teams in Hail with the Snow Cloak, thank you, Game Freak, gets taken down with flash cannons, because Pen just has that dog in him. So with that gym done pretty quickly in that, I begin to move my way over to the next thing I should be getting to. That being climbing rocks. As it turns out, when I wasn't looking, Barry got his ass completely handed to him by Team Galactic, which I don't know how you managed to lose to these bowl cut losers, but whatever. That's not really my problem, as I need to boogie on down to the Galactic HQ, where Looker proves how useless he really is by standing back and watching me beat every single person in both of these buildings. Which takes forever because I get lost multiple times and waste a ton of time here. Seriously, I don't remember being this stupid, but this game reminds me constantly that my sense of direction and puzzle solving are both failing me with the ever-growing depths of time. Seriously, I cannot explain to you how much footage I have of me just aimlessly wandering around between the two different Galactic HQ buildings because I simply missed one teleporter that would lead me to the correct place to go. But eventually, I managed to find Cyrus giving a speech to all of his Giga Nerds while Looker finally catches up after disappearing for a half hour. Then he tells me to go do all the work for him, and I feel like he's not doing his job properly. Eventually, after a lot of maneuvering and a couple double battles, we actually managed to find our way to Cyrus to battle him where he's keeping the Lake Trio. Upon attacking him, we get into a fight where Penn does most of the heavy lifting in the early game, destroying everything other than his Haunch Crow, which actually does give us a lot of trouble. The wall barely manages to scrape by killing it, and we defeat him. After this, we battle through a few more of the facility rooms, finally making our way to Commander Saturn, and where the Lake Trio is actually being held for real this time. Upon defeating her, we manage to liberate the legendaries, but they fly off into the distance before we have a chance to really interact with them. After leaving Galactic HQ, I need to head to Mount Coronet and climb all the way to Spear Pillar. This is going to take a combination of Rock Climb, Surf, Rock Smash, and Strength, and a lot of trainer battles. This area is dangerous, so I stock up on potions and other such things I can use outside of battle, and make my ascent. This takes some time. I have to fight through several Galactic grunts, trainers, all with dangerous Pokemon that are starting to have actually good moves, something I really wasn't encountering up until this point. But to be honest, I'm incredibly glad I brought Pet Rock with me for this journey. Stab Earthquakes and Rock Slides managed to clear through a lot of the Pokemon that Team Galactic brings to the table. I mean, Toxicroak dies to Earthquake, despite its fighting stab back not being able to kill Golem thanks to its high defense. Golbat gets completely shredded by Rock Slide, and many of the other Poison and Dark types just aren't capable of dealing with it. It's a pretty good wall, but I need to be careful with how I use it. I absolutely do not want to lose this Pokemon before the 8th gym, or otherwise I might just be screwed. After the long trip up Mount Coronet, I eventually arrive at the top, Spear Pillar. Here, the Galactic commanders are waiting for me, and I have to prepare my team for battle. However, Barry actually joins me as a brother-in-arms, and we prepare to double battle them. And he brings out his level 40 Munchlax. What? Why haven't you evolved it yet? Barry, I thought you said you were gonna... Whatever, either way, Furry can take care of this on his own. Furry sets up multiple sword stances and manages to completely annihilate one of the Bronzor. Next, a Skuntank comes out, which goes down to a close combat. However, when Golbat comes out, I'm a little concerned that it'll confuse me with something like Confuse Ray and cause me to deal massive damage to myself. Not wanting to risk any bullshit happening, I switch over to Pen, and the rest is history, after Barry gets done spamming the shit out of Stockpile on his Munchlax when it dies. Thankfully, his Staraptor comes out, and some actual progress is made, and we win the battle without too many scratches. Immediately after winning that fight, Cyrus begins to enact his master plan. By summoning Palkia and Dialga, he plans to create a universe in his own image. However, he tends to forget that people in fiction who try to play God end up angering something resembling it. And so, when Giratina pops up and jump scares the screen, we get thrown directly into the Shadow Realm. Well, Cyrus does. We're fine, actually, but we're going to be launching ourselves into that portal soon enough, just like the Lake Trio before us. After wandering around in the Upside Down for a little bit... Oh, sorry, did I say Upside Down? I meant Hell. After wandering around in Hell for a little bit, we managed to fail a couple of puzzles meant for children, struggle directionally, and then eventually find out where we're going, that being directly to Cyrus. You see, we have to have one last battle with him, and I tell you, I came prepared. First up, he leads his Houndoom, and I lead Furry. It's an easy KO for Furry, who just immediately close combats it into the dirt. However, his big bad Gyarados comes in next. My plan for this one is to bait it out. What does that mean? Well, it's simple. You see, Gyarados sees a kill with Earthquake, which means he's going to go for it, but if I switch to Larry, who's immune, he wastes one of his Earthquake PP. All I have to do is swap back and forth between Larry and any Steel type, this one being Pen, and eventually I can stall out all of Earthquake's PP. So, after repeating this process enough times that Gyarados is completely out of Earthquake PP, it is safe to bring in Pen and... God damn it. Due to a severe lack of better options, I bring out Mystic, who slams Gyarados with the Psychic. It's not enough to kill the specially defensive beast, but thankfully Gyarados can't kill back, allowing Mystic to hit it with another Psychic, getting a kill. However, that just means that Honchkrow comes out next, another problem I'll have to deal with. Thankfully, Honchkrow could be switched in on by Furry, who takes his attacks pretty well. Furry responds with a strong Iron Tail. However, Cyrus has a surprise Heat Wave in store. By some miracle, Furry survives the Heat Wave, so I managed to get a kill on Honchkrow, bringing out the next Pokemon that Cyrus has in his bag, a Crobat of his own. I switch out to Golem, who takes the hit pretty well, however, fully expecting Giga Drain, I switch out to Larry. Upon realizing that the Crobat doesn't have Giga Drain when it attempts to Toxic Larry, I switch right back into Pet Rock, who, after a little bit of confusion, manages to actually take down the Crobat with his Rock Stab. However, out comes Weavile, and not wanting to risk Pet Rock, who I desperately need for the next gym, I sack Furry, who is on too low health to deal with the Weavile right now, allowing Macho a free switch in, and after taking a pretty heavy hit, he lands a high jump kick on Weavile, killing it in one fell blow. Either way, Cyrus has finally been defeated, and we can exit the Distortion World. But of course, first, we have to deal with Gardenia, the literal representation of Pokemon Satan. So, approaching the massive beast, we tell it calmly to its face that legendaries aren't allowed in this run and it's banned, before running from it like a little bitch. Upon leaving, I managed to catch a Golduck, which I feel will be useful for some of the Elite Four teams since I just lost to one of my water types, and I actually move a little further on, replacing Furry for a Swablu, who I'm going to level up into an Altaria, and going ahead and swapping out Pen for Golduck. I actually spend a lot of time turning around and going right back up Mount Coronet because I realized I missed the TM for Dragon Claw, which will be really good on Altaria, who I teach Dragon Dance. Cloud is actually shaping up to be a pretty cool member of this team, and I'm excited to see what he can do. Moving beyond that, our next encounter ends up being an Electabuzz, which is really nice. I could do some more Electric Stab on my team, since a while back I lost Egypt due to my own actions, but that's not important. What is important is that I have an Electabuzz, and access to the Electrizer item, which can evolve it into Electivire, but I'm not going to do that right now, for reasons I'll make clear soon. After blazing my way through the nearest route, and finally getting to the final city of the region, I managed to go into the gym and face down Volkner, after wasting plenty of time on the gym puzzle. This is starting to become a problem. But either way, I face up with Volkner and get ready for his electric types. Now, I've been preparing for this gym for a while. It's actually pretty tough, but I've got a plan and a ground type. Not a very great one, but one that will certainly put in enough work. Volkner leads Jolteon, and I lead Pet Rock. Jolteon hits an absolutely pathetic Iron Tail with its horrible base attack, and Pet Rock responds with a stab super effective massive Earthquake to one-hit KO the Jolteon. However, that does bring out a small problem: Raichu. However, Raichu wants to use Focus Blast on Golem, which is easy enough to switch into when you've got an Alakazam on your team. Its high special defense and resistance means that it can come in safely and slam Raichu with the Oh, wow. So I kind of used Alakazam to blast through the majority of trainers in the gym, and I may or may not have forgotten to give it an ether to get back its psychic PP, which means I'm now floundering in the 8th gym that I prepared so much for and not enough for. I'm forced to switch out into Golem, who takes a Signal Beam, but as Focus Blast comes out, I pivot into Medicham. Him, with his incredible power, should be enough to one-shot Raichu. However, Raichu lands a Charge Beam on Macho, which deals decent damage and raises its special attack. However, I'm confident that if any one man can one-shot Raichu, it's Macho. Upon getting the kill, we find ourselves in even more danger as we're out of the frying pan and into the fire. Electivire comes out, and frankly, I'm not sure what to do. I send out the rock, however, I'm not entirely sure you can take too much punishment from it. If it has any sort of coverage moves, I'm screwed. However, I get lucky. Electivire only knows Fire Punch, and that does basically nothing to Pet Rock, who responds with an Earthquake that devastates the beast. However, things just get worse. Luxray comes out, and honestly, I'm not sure what to do here. I feel as though it probably has Ice Fang, because I would put that on my Luxray, which he does. He sends it out to Hero, who takes way too much damage from it. However, Hero's static procs, paralyzing Luxray. Confident that I am now faster, I decide to hit him with Thunderbolts and abuse paralysis. Not the most genius strategy, but honestly at this point I was floundering and I had basically no ideas left. Thankfully though, Thunderbolt actually does a good amount of damage to Luxray, who must not have very good special defenses. It taking him down into the yellow, and Luxray once again gets paralyzed. Really lucky for me. Volkner makes a shocking pun, which almost makes me fall out of my chair, but another Thunderbolt brings Luxray down to the red, so I'm on the edge of it instead of out of it. However, Luxray hits a crunch, bringing Hero down to just 5 HP. I hit him with one more Thunderbolt right as Volkner casts a full restore, and I'm left back in the fire. Knowing that I can't leave Hero in, since he's important for a fight I have coming up later, I have to switch him out. And I decide my best option is to sack Pet Rock. Now, that's because Pet Rock's only purpose in life was to actually beat this gym, and without that, there's really no point to him going on, since, I don't need him for anything else. I send out Macho, who I'm confident will kill with a high jump kick. He doesn't, and Macho dies, losing me a pretty important fighting type, but I'm pretty confident that Cloud is faster than Luxray. Not to mention, in this moment, I'm thinking Luxray is paralyzed. Now, the funny thing about this is that Luxray is not paralyzed, because instead of just a Mega Potion, he used a full restore, and I lose Cloud before he even gets to use his first move, wasting all that time I spent getting the Dragon Claw TM. But, at the very least, Larry comes in and finishes off the Luxray with a Poison Fang. And I would have shit myself on the spot had it not killed him and I lost Larry. Honestly, I'm not even sure this run would have been worth continuing right after that. But, thankfully, a gym badge is a gym badge. We lost half our team in the process, but it's a win. I then scramble out of the gym, reassemble what's left of my team, and then decide to go careening up Victory Road, where, while surfing, I catch a Tentacool. Which is cool, I guess, but I don't use this thing ever, so I guess it doesn't really matter. After fighting my way through the utterly insane trainers scattered around Victory Road, hitting me with absolutely crazy Thunderbolts and Hydro Pumps left and right, I finally make it to the Pokemon League. After failing my encounter at Victory Road, I honestly don't remember where it is. I don't have any footage. I think I just ran from it towards the beginning and I missed it, but I'm not going back to check any further, as I carry on to assembling my team for beating the Elite Four and Cynthia. And I've got a bit of a cracked plan, but one that might just work. But, of course, before I can put that great plan into effect, I have one last fight to get through. Barry wants one last challenge. So, we enter the battle leading Electabuzz into Staraptor. This is the reason I didn't use the Electrizer to evolve it into Electivire. It's because Electivire is actually slower than Electabuzz. So, of course, I use him to outspeed and get a clean one-hit KO on Staraptor. Barry follows it up by bringing out his Torterra, which sees a kill with Earthquake, allowing me to easily switch into Big John, who sets up a Dragon Dance and then kills him with Ice Fang. Heracross comes out next, but Heracross has pretty poor physical defense, which means one Waterfall should take care of it. Big John survives the incoming Rock Slide on 5 HP, and then responds with another Waterfall, which kills him. Rapidash thankfully comes out next, it being outsped and cleanly one-hit KO by Waterfall. However, Barry's next Pokemon is not so easy to one-hit KO. Snorlax is a massive wall of HP that can't be overcome with just a +1 Waterfall, which means now I need to get creative. I switch in Scyther on a crunch, and it deals pretty good damage to him, but not that much, honestly. I pray that a Rock Smash is enough to get the point across and deal a lot of damage to Snorlax since it's Technician boosted, but even a Technician boosted Rock Smash is still pathetic. Goat gets hit with a Body Slam, which takes him down into the red. However, I don't exactly have too many switch-ins, and since Goat is completely inessential to my plans in the Elite Four, I decide to simply sack him instead. One X-Scissor later, and Snorlax is not dead, but Goat is. He served us well in the time he was here, and while it was fun getting to use a Scyther, I don't need him for what comes next. So, in order to kill the Snorlax, I bring out Flipper, whose Surf should do the trick just fine. After taking down Snorlax, there's only one more Pokemon to take care of, and that's Floatzel, who I forgot about until now, honestly. He hits Flipper for a pretty inoffensive crunch, and Flipper responds with a Zen Headbutt, which I don't imagine will do much either. These two kind of go at each other for a second until Flipper is forced out, and instead, Larry comes in. Outspeeding and killing is pretty much his MO. So, with that, Barry is defeated, and I can finally move on to the Elite Four. So, now it's all a matter of deciding what my Elite Four team will be, and I think I have some sort of semblance of the plan. The first member of the Elite Four specializes in bug types, so I decide to take Pearl as a fire type to resist most of their moves, as well as deal back big damage with Stab Fire Blasts and Fire Spins. He will probably not be the best option I have to deal with the bugs, but the thing is I don't want to rely on Wing Attack from Larry the entire time. I then think of a second member to bring with me, and I realize that I need an answer to the Psychic type trainer. Fire and Ground are easy enough to deal with two water types on your team after all, but Psychic is a different problem entirely. See, Alakazam resists all their moves and has high special defense, but can only hit back with Psychic, which obviously isn't doing much to a fellow Psychic type. So, I have to think, what is the best answer I can come up with to a bunch of Psychics? And you would think Sneasel, but I don't have the Razor Claw, and I don't intend on going back to get it because that will take hours of traveling. So, my second best option lies in a pretty unsuspecting pick. It may sound strange, but funnily enough, Girafarig has the exact combination of features that would be required for a good showing in the Psychic type Elite Four trainer. It's an adamant nature Girafarig, meaning it has plus attack and minus special attack, which can abuse the flow physical defenses of the Psychic types in the gym. It also learns Crunch on level up, a super effective move. Its Psychic typing means it resists their attacks, and its normal typing means it's immune to their Shadow Balls that they be throwing around. Girafarig's low amount of weaknesses, plus advantages in this regard, mean it's actually not a terrible Pokemon to bring with me. In fact, it has just enough bulk to get by, and I'll be using it as my main counter for the Psychic types going forward. It may seem odd to replace Alakazam on this team, but the only thing Alakazam has going for it is speed, which I can get from Larry. Now, was this the best decision in the world? 100% definitely not, but it's the decision I made at the time, and it didn't seem like a bad one when I went into it, so hey, maybe it didn't turn out to be that bad. And so, we begin to fight the Elite Four. We start off with Aaron, the Bug-type trainer. Now, this guy is going to be the easiest challenge we have to face them all. As much as I love bug types, such as Yanmega and Vespiquen, they honestly aren't that good with their tons of resistances. Pearl immediately leads off with a strong Stab Fire Blast, and since Yanmega's special defense is as thin as paper, it goes down in a single blow to one, collecting Pearl the first kill of the Elite Four, and it's honestly only good showing for the entire series so far. So I'm pretty proud of it personally. Next out comes Vespiquen because it sees a kill with Power Gem. However, Pearl leads off a strong Flame Wheel, dealing into it for less damage than you would expect. A little over half, and so when Vespiquen uses Defend Order, it's honestly not fearing for another KO. So, when I go for a second Flame Wheel, it just barely survives and manages to recover off the damage, now forcing me into a situation where I can't quite 2-hit KO the Vespiquen, and it can constantly put itself back together every time it takes damage. This being a bit of a stressful situation, I just continue to click Flame Wheel because I'm unsure of what to do. I consider clicking Fire Blast, but I know the moment that I decide to, I will miss. However, it's very quickly becoming an essential thing I need to do, as Aaron continues to stall with all of these heal orders, eventually landing one Power Gem on Pearl, which does way less than you'd think it would, and Pearl responds with a Flame Wheel, which just barely manages to nab a KO. However, his next Pokemon might not be so easy, were it not for the fact that we brought Bounce, Flying type coverage. So, the first thing that happens is Pearl launches itself into the air, comes down on Heracross, and kills it in an instant. So, this brings out Aaron's next Pokemon. 2 more to go. Scizor, well, I don't think he was going to last very long in this fight, honestly, and Drapion, who is honestly the biggest threat of them all because it's not even a bug type. Pearl manages to land a Fire Blast, dealing some good damage to Drapion, and catching a surprise burn. Good job, Pearl. Honestly, I never expected this much of you, but you did really good here, and now it's time for you to back out. As, instead, Larry comes in to finish the job, and Aaron is defeated. So, naturally, it's time for Earth Trainer Bertha. Now, these should be pretty easy. After all, I've got 2 water types on my team, which I imagine go pretty well into ground types. In fact, Flipper is a special attacking water type. Since all of her Mons are pretty physically defensive, this should be a cinch with Stab Surf. So, naturally, she leads Wishcash and I lead Flipper. Flipper manages to get a 2-hit KO instead of a 3-hit KO thanks to a lucky crit, which is nice, and then the Gliscor comes out. Now, Gliscor might outspeed me here. Nope, check that. Definitely outspeeds. But Flipper can respond with a 1-hit KO Surf. Useless ass duck. Okay, now we're in a bit of a situation. I'm forced out into double after doing a pivot from Big John due to the fact that I thought it would have a rock move. Even worse, it has an electric move and could 1-hit KO Big John, which means that Big John is in no position to remove this thing from the field. Double tries to fight it for a while, but can't quite, meaning I'm forced into Pearl, who I'm hoping can get off a Fire Blast before dying, but an unlucky paralysis sends Pearl to an early grave. Thankfully, they were only here to beat the Bug Trainer, but it still sings. I have to think carefully about what I do next, and I decide that Larry is my best option. Larry can spam flies and take out a little bit of Gliscor's HP. At this point, I'm once again floundering due to this going the exact opposite of the way I thought it would, and thankfully for me, Gliscor misses a Thunder Fang, allowing Larry to get off enough flies to actually take the damn thing out. Next up is Golem, and I have to think very carefully about what I'm doing here. I need a safe switch to Flipper, but how am I supposed to get it? I need Big John, I need Hero, and I need Larry. Which means that there's only one Pokemon capable of getting me a safe switch in. And I have to sack Double before his time. However, Flipper manages to get in and land some Surfs. Thankfully, Rhyperior, just as weak to Surf as Golem is, goes down in 1 hit. And finally, it's Hippowdon's turn. I switch in Big John and Hippowdon and land an Intimidate. Then I start beating the crap out of it with Waterfalls. Thankfully, it does good damage and we finally take them down. With 2 Pokemon in the grave, and I'm only halfway through the Elite Four. Well, at the very least, to be entirely honest with you, I was never for even a second worried about Flint, considering that I once again have 2 water types. But instead of the sham Flipper lead, we're going with the Big John lead. We're doing this his way. Big John sets up several Dragon Dances right on top of Houndoom as it sets up Sun. Even in the sun, all these stab waterfalls, boosted by Dragon Dance, absolutely run over Flint's team at every turn. He pretty much doesn't even have a chance to think about what's happening, as he's destroyed at every single opportunity. And of course, finally, here it comes. The thing I was worried about the most going into this. The psychic training. Well, I was not ready for Lucian going into this. I was barely ready with Double, and now that he's gone, my best plan is the same thing that I did last time. Mr. Mime has Thunderbolts, so I can't lead off with Big John, otherwise he'll just one-hit KO it, which means I need to kill it with Hero. So Hero spams as many electric moves as he can get his hands on, trying to waste screen time. Eventually, Mr. Mime does die, and Bronzong comes out, just like I hoped. Bronzong has Earthquake, and it's the only thing it'll see a kill on with Hero. Probably better, it'll coin flip it. But either way, Big John can come in safely and start setting up Dragon Dances. Thankfully, Bronzong just starts Calm Minding for some reason, neglecting to actually hit Big John. Then Big John successfully destroys every single member of Lucian's team with Stab Waterfalls and Ice Fangs, taking down the strongest member of the Elite Four in my eyes without even breaking a sweat. And finally, there's one challenge left at the end of the road. The champion Cynthia awaits. I only have 4 Pokemon, and I have to deal with one of the strongest champions in the history of the game series. It's not going to be easy, but I have a plan. Cynthia, every single time, will lead with her Spiritomb. My goal is to do similarly what I did to the Psychic Gym. I need to bait out Earthquake. And so for that, I lead Hero. Hero successfully manages to 1v1 the Spiritomb all the way down to the very end. Then, Garchomp comes out. Seeing a kill with Earthquake, I switch into Big John. However, Garchomp must have also seen the kill with Dragon Tail, due to Hero's poor defensive stats. So, Big John gets hit with a Dragon Rush. However, I can't stop here, and I have to set up a Dragon Dance. Big John gets put on 43 HP as it only gets off one Dragon Dance. However, luckily for me, Big John is holding the Never Melt Ice, a move which boosts the power of his Ice Fang. This allows him to not only one-hit KO Garchomp, but deals serious damage to Togekiss, who comes in second. However, he doesn't quite manage the kill. So, my next option is to bring out Flipper. Normally, I'd bring out Hero, but that would bait in a Pokemon I don't need in right now. So, Togekiss gets a full restore as Flipper struggles to beat it down with Surfs. During this fight, I set up Samurai Amnesias, which give me a huge special defense boost. This allows Flipper to tank several hits from Roserade and respond with strong, super effective Zen Headbutts. After this, Lucario comes out on Flipper, who's just on 4 HP. Flipper, at this point, has pretty much entirely served its purpose and no longer needs to be on the field. After which, Larry can come in to try and fight Lucario. However, after getting Lucario down to about half with Fly, Larry is hit with a huge Stone Edge, bringing it into what I feel is E-Speed range. But, for whatever reason, Lucario doesn't use E-Speed, and Larry manages to kill it with another Fly. Maybe it just didn't see the kill, but I think I got incredibly lucky there. And finally, I have to deal with one more Pokemon, Milotic. And this is exactly what I was saving Hero for. Larry flies into the sky one last time, landing his very final fly of the series, and then Hero comes out, slamming it with Thunderbolt. And with one last critical hit, Hero brings home a victory, and we are crowned champion of the Sinnoh region. After a long, arduous journey, we finally beat Pokemon Platinum with hardcore Nuzlocke rules. Thank you all so much for watching this video, and I really appreciate anyone that finds this. My channel is brand new, and in fact this is the very first thing I'm posting on it. I understand the quality might be a little low, but I still appreciate you sticking around to the end of this video. Honestly, putting this whole thing together has taught me that this is not as easy as it seems. The editing process literally took me all night, even as unimpressive as it is. But seriously, consider subscribing, liking the video, and commenting at any chance you get, please, as much as you want. I'm here to drum up buzz, and hopefully I'll be putting out one video a week. Please comment what kind of challenges you want to see in the future, and everything that goes into your viewership will come right back around and be reinvested into the channel to make better, higher quality content moving forward. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next video.